Welcome, crypto fam, and happy Monday. How's it going? Holla at your boy in the live chat. In today's show, top crypto analyst says Bitcoin is in the calm before the storm and predicts a big breakout through long-term resistance. And quoting Max Kaiser, looking to tomorrow when the global collapse of the banks and fiat money continues and Bitcoin rockets to $45,000. And this just in, the USC FTC sues the Binance CEO and Bitcoin plunges immediately by $1,400. Also more breaking news, Michael Saylor's MicroStrategy repays their Silvergate loan and buys an additional 6.5 thousand BTC. So MicroStrategy has increased its total Bitcoin holdings to 138,955 BTC, purchased for $4.1 billion at an average price of $29,817 per coin. Also in today's show, U.S. government remains the top Bitcoin holder with the seized stash valued at $5.6 billion. We'll also be discussing more breaking news. First Citizens Bank snaps up Silicon Valley Bank and the branches open today. We'll also be discussing Analyst predicts that the gold prices might exceed $8,000 in the next decade as central banks lose confidence in foreign currency. I'll be breaking down how this is likely to affect the Bitcoin price action. We'll also be discussing billionaire Tim Draper says Bitcoin is a hedge against potential Domino bank run crisis. That's right. The billionaire venture capitalist says the Bitcoin could be the tool for businesses to hedge against any potential banking crisis. We'll also be breaking down his $250,000 Bitcoin price prediction, which he says he believes is going to happen with near 100% certainty. We'll also be taking a look at the overall crypto market. All this, plus so much more, in today's show. And welcome everyone for tuning in. This is podcast episode number 1233. I am your host, JV, and today is March 27th, 2023. Checking out the markets. They just started correcting off of the news of the CFTC going after Binance. We now have Bitcoin down 3% for the day, trading under 27,000, and all the major alts also correcting, including Ethereum, down almost 3%, trading under $1,700. BNB down 3%, trading at $310. And the only one in the green is ultimately XRP. And checking out coinmarketcap.com, as you can see here, the market cap just lost many billions as a result of the CFTC going after Binance as well. And we have 38 billion in volume in the past 24 hours. The market cap still sitting above 1.1 trillion, with the Bitcoin dominance back on the decline at 46.1% and the Ether dominance at 18.6%. And checking out the top 100 crypto gainers in the past 24 hours, there's not many, only a handful, with XRP leading the pack up 2.5%, trading just under 46 cents, followed by Toncoin up 1%, trading at $2.13, followed by OKB up 1%, trading above $42. And below that, we have stablecoins because the majority of the top 100 are correcting and in the red. And checking out the top 100 gainers for the past week, virtually nothing except XRP and OKB with very minuscule gains of 1 to 2%. And as you can see, just massive losses for the overall altcoin market. And checking out the Crypto Greed and Fear Index, today we're rated a 64 in greed, yesterday a 64, last week a 66, and last month a 52, which is neutral. So there you have it. And welcome to everyone just tuning in. Now let's dive into today's Bitcoin technical analysis. A closely followed crypto analyst says that major technical signals are pointing towards a big breakout for the King Crypto. Synonymous analyst Rec Capital tells his 340,000 Twitter followers the Bitcoin's monthly candle has broken through major resistance. And according to Rec, Bitcoin's recent breakout looks similar to the other moves in the past that historically preceded the longer-term rallies. Quoting him here, notice how Bitcoin macro downtrend breakout candles have historically had upside wicks, which you can see here in the yellow circles. This current monthly breakout candle looks no different. So the popular analyst is ultimately saying that the current monthly candle suggests that Bitcoin is in a position to confirm a new bull market by the end of March, which is 4 more days around the corner. Rec also says that based on Bitcoin's current market structure, it is likely the calm before the storm for the King Crypto. Quoting him again, this coming Saturday, the Bitcoin monthly candle will have closed above the macro downtrend to confirm for a new bull market. Only a few days left and Bitcoin is still well and clear to perform a bullish breakout of the macro downtrend and monthly close above key resistance. Short term, some dipping in price could occur, but mid to long term, Bitcoin is setting up for a new macro uptrend. And also, according to Rec, a Bitcoin is forming an inverse head and shoulders, a price pattern that traditionally suggests a slow trend reversal to the upside. As he shares here alongside this chart, Bitcoin inverse head and shoulders played out exceptionally well. Bitcoin rallied 40% since perfectly tagging 20,000 to form the right shoulder. So there you have it. Let me know if you agree or disagree with the analyst. Max Kaiser tweeted yesterday, looking to tomorrow when global collapse of banks and fiat money continues, Bitcoin rockets to $45,000. Send it. Let's freaking go. And this breaking news just came in literally right before I went live, so I'm going to read it for you right here. The United States Commodity and Futures Trading Commission, better known as the CFTC, is suing the CEO of the world's largest exchange, Binance, CZ. And as a result, the Bitcoin price lost over 1,400 in minutes. According to the CNBC report, CZ, who is the CEO of Binance, is being sued by the CFTC for allegedly violating trading regulations. The court filing stipulates that the exchange has taken a calculated approach to solicit U.S. customers in violation of federal regulations. CZ and his former compliance officer, Samuel Lim, have allegedly actively cultivated lucrative and commercially important VIP customers, including institutional customers located in the U.S. As a result, the Bitcoin price plunged by more than $1,400 before recovering slightly to where it trades at the time of this recording. So yeah, nothing new under the sun. It looks like the crypto shakedown continues. And now for more breaking news, MicroStrategy just bought the dip. You gotta love it. MicroStrategy, the business intelligence firm and major Bitcoin investor, is acquiring more Bitcoin amid the recent crypto market recovery. MicroStrategy's co-founder and former CEO Michael Saylor took to Twitter on March 27th to announce that the firm has repaid its $205 million loan to Silvergate, and citing a Form 8K filing with the U.S. SEC. Saylor stressed that MicroStrategy repaid the Silvergate loan at a 22% discount. Way to go, Michael Saylor. The company has also acquired a significant stash of Bitcoin, purchasing 6,455 Bitcoin for $150 million at an average price of $23,238 per coin as of March 23rd. The former CEO said, with the purchase, MicroStrategy has increased its total Bitcoin holdings to 138,955 BTC and bought for $4.1 billion at an average price of $29,817 per coin. Not too shabby. Now, I think they're going to continue, obviously, to keep purchasing Bitcoin to bring that dollar cost average dollar value lower, and at this time that's roughly like $2,000 off the current price. So when Bitcoin rises back to 30,000, reaching a new high for this year, guess what? Michael Saylor's MicroStrategy will be in profit, and you could do the math. When Bitcoin recaptures the all-time high at 69,000, it'll be worth well over $8 billion, doubling the current value of their Bitcoin holdings. How many of you have taken advantage of this dip as Michael Saylor just did? Let me know in the comments right down below, which leads us to our next story of the day. Do you know the U.S. government is the biggest hodler of Bitcoin? That's right. Check this out. The U.S. government currently holds 205,515 Bitcoins, valued at $5.66 billion based on today's exchange rate. The Bitcoin was confiscated in 3 cases, including Silk Road Bitcoin seizure in November of 2020 and the 2022 Bitfinex hack confiscation, and the seizure of Bitcoins from James Zhong last year of a total of 69,369 Bitcoin was seized from individual X. 94,643 Bitcoin was taken from Ilya Lichtenstein and his wife Heather Morgan, and 51,326 Bitcoin was seized from Zhong in November of 2022. And according to a report from Glassnode on March 9th of 2023, some of these Bitcoin have moved, reducing the total from 215,338 to 205,515 BTC. Approximately 40,000 Bitcoins from wallets associated with U.S. government law enforcement seizures are on the move, according to Glassnode. The majority of these appear to be internal transfers thus far. However, around 9,800 Bitcoin seized from the Silk Road hacker have been sent to our Coinbase cluster, as outlined right here. Now, the current estimate of 205,515 Bitcoins comes from Dune Analytics' set of metrics created by 21 Shares, an exchange-traded product provider. The data shows the U.S. government's addresses and transaction history, and of the current seized cache of Bitcoin, 44% came from the Bitfinex forfeiture, 32.2% from individual X, 23.8% from Zhong's seizure, and additionally, the U.S. government may possess more Bitcoin than it has tallied up up in 21 shares data set. The summary notes that 205,515 Bitcoin is a lower bound estimation based solely on the publicly available information. Now, the U.S. government sees 205,515 Bitcoins constitutes a considerable stash compared to that of other large hodlers. Although smaller than Grayscale's cache of 643,572 Bitcoin, it surpasses MicroStrategy's stash, which I just covered with you previously. And furthermore, compared to the whales in the Bitcoin rich list of addresses, it would be the second largest if consolidated, falling behind Binance's Bitcoin cold wallet, which holds 248,597 Bitcoin at the time of this recording. Now, the federal government's Bitcoin stash is also larger than the roughly 140,000 Bitcoin in the Mt. Gox cache. This isn't the first time the U.S. government has been the top hodler. The FBI was the second largest Bitcoin hodler after seizing the original Silk Road marketplace. However, the government's stash at the time was depleted after the U.S. Marshals held Bitcoin auction to sell the crypto assets in 2014. And I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, it was Tim Draper who purchased those crypto assets. Now, I bet you in hindsight, the government wishes they hodled those Bitcoin, as it would be worth a significant larger amount of money. But with that being shared, now let's discuss the latest, what's happening with Silicon Valley Bank and the takeover, which is quite interesting as well. This was just announced this morning. North Carolina-based First Citizens Bank is set to acquire all deposits and loans of Silicon Valley Bank, according to a statement from the FDIC, who insures your funds at the bank. However, they're obviously becoming insolvent slowly but surely, or should I say pretty fast. Under the March 26 purchase and assumption agreement, 17 former branches of SVB will open up as First Citizens Bank and Trust Company on Monday today, March 27th, and all the Silicon Valley Bank depositors will automatically become depositors of First Citizens Bank. Quoting them here, today's transaction included the purchase of about $72 billion of Silicon Valley Bridge Bank, National Association's assets at a discount of $16.5 billion, according to the FDIC, as they announced right here, and approximately $90 billion in securities and other assets will remain in the receivership for deposition by the FDIC. And in addition, the FDIC received equity appreciation rights in First Citizen Bank Shares, Inc., the common stock with a potential value of up to $500 million. The North Carolina-based bank is the 30th largest commercial bank in the U.S. with $167 billion in total assets and $119 billion in deposits as of March 10th. Now, SVB collapsed on March 10th after rumors of a severe liquidity crisis at the bank prompted a bank run. The FDIC was then appointed as the receiver of the failed bank and attempted to auction off the fallen bank. The process included two separate auctions for SVB's assets, one of which is traditional deposits unit and the other is for its private bank, which was housed within its retail operations and catered to high net worth individuals. Several firms were understood to have either been planning or had submitted bids for the collapsed U.S. bank. First Citizens was reported by Bloomberg to have been planning an SVB bid as early as March 18th. Then 3 days later, it reportedly submitted a bid for all of SVB. And at the time, a First Citizens spokesperson declined to comment on market rumors of speculation. And as pointed out here, First Citizen Bank to buy Silicon Valley Bank. First Citizens Bank has $109 billion assets and $89 billion in deposits. Silicon Valley Bank had $209 billion in assets and $175 billion in deposits. A bank half the size as buying Silicon Valley Bank happens only in a crisis. He makes a great point. Another regional bank, Valley National Bank Corp, is also understood to have been submitted a bid for the collapsed bank. And meanwhile, Reuters reported on March 24th that a third U.S. regional bank, Citizens Financial Group, has been preparing to submit an offer for SVB's private banking arm. So there you have it as the bank runs continue. And obviously, there is a lot of fear, uncertainty, and doubt to leave any cash in the bank. So I remind you, only keep in the bank what you can afford to lose. You know what I mean? And I mean that sincerely. And with that being shared, now let's discuss the gold price of an ounce going to 8,000. Right now, it's roughly at 2,000, so 4x for the gold price and how this would likely affect the Bitcoin price. And then we'll dive into Tim Draper's latest updates regarding the bank runs and what Bitcoin could do, along with his $250,000 Bitcoin price prediction, followed by some live Q&A. So here we go. Jan, and I'm not even going to try to attempt to pronounce his last name, a gold market researcher, has predicted that the price of gold might exceed $8,000 during the next decade as central banks shift their reserve performances due to the macroeconomic factors and war. Jan also believes that the current conflict between Ukraine and Russia and the global war against inflation will trigger a change in the composition of reserves. And as a part of his analysis, which considers the historical percentage of gold held by the central banks as a key metric, Jan states the following: central banks in aggregate have an unusual faith in foreign exchange, as gold's percentage of total reserves accounted for 16% in 2022, again a historical average of 59%. These central banks, however, are starting to lose confidence in the currencies issued by their peers, and according to this model, if the central bank stockpiled 51% of their reserves in gold, the price of gold would reach $10,000 per troy ounce. However, Jan clarifies that while central banks will be the ones to spearhead this pivot to gold, private banks and other organizations will also follow the trend. Now, central banks have been stockpiling gold in recent times. In 2022, central banks purchased a record amount of gold, with reserves going up by 1,136 tons, while reserves held in the form of foreign currencies went down by $950 billion. And in quarter three of last year alone, close to 400 tons of gold were purchased by the central banks, according to reports by the World Gold Council. So obviously, they're hoarding gold in very large amounts. And on March 2nd, the World Gold Council reported the demand for gold coming from central banks continued to be strong in 2023, as of 31 tons of the precious mineral were added by central banks in January. I just hope they're not tungsten inside, as we have seen in many stories as well. Big gold vaults thinking they're holding pure gold, but inside the gold, it's tungsten. You know what I mean? Counterfeit. Now, Turkey was the country that purchased the most gold, acquiring 23 tons. Other personalities have also alerted about the rise of gold and other scarce assets, such as Bitcoin, including rich dad Robert Kiyosaki. He predicted in February that gold could reach $5,000 by 2025, also signaling the possibility of Bitcoin reaching $500,000 per coin. So there you have it. Could you imagine that? As Kiyosaki's prediction, gold hitting 5,000 or even 10,000 and 4xing from today's value. But Bitcoin, on the other hand, obviously, there's no ceiling to the Bitcoin price because there is no bottom to the fiat floor, so you have to keep that in mind. Now, I personally would love to see a $10,000 gold price because that tells me the Bitcoin is going to go to the moon, and I like that prediction of $500,000 per coin. But now, let's discuss even further the latest from billionaire venture capitalist Tim Draper, as well as his $250,000 Bitcoin price prediction, shall we? Here we go. Billionaire investor Tim Draper says the king crypto could be a tool for businesses to hedge against any potential banking crisis. In a new memo directed to startup founders, Draper says the recent collapse of SVB plus the overregulation of banks by the government means business founders should consider a more diversified strategy of cash management. Quoting him here, since boards and management are responsible for making payroll, even in times of crisis, it's important to build out contingency plans for bank failures that could happen more and more often if governments continue to print money and whipsaw the interest rates to counteract inflation caused by the overprinting of money as the money printer continued to go burp. The venture capitalist says businesses should consider holding at least 2 payrolls worth of Bitcoin or other crypto assets in their reserves as part of a diversification strategy. Quoting him here, businesses can no longer rely on one bank or one governing body to manage their cash. We recommend keeping at least 6 months of short-term cash in each of 2 banks, one local bank and one global bank, and at least 2 payrolls worth of cash in Bitcoin or in other cryptocurrencies. He also continues, excess cash can be longer term, but easily sellable in emergencies. For the first time in many years, governments are taking over banks, and governments themselves are at risk of becoming insolvent. Bitcoin is a hedge against a domino run on the banks and poor over-controlling governance. Now, I personally agree with him. I think Bitcoin is the ultimate hedge against these continued bank runs, and it doesn't seem to be stopping anytime soon, especially with the government announcing printing trillions upon trillions of more dollars to bail out these corrupt banks. Now, earlier in the month, Tim Draper doubled down and said he was nearly 100% sure that Bitcoin would explode to $250,000 per coin within the next 18 months. Let me know if you agree or disagree with the billionaire venture capitalist, and when do you feel a $250,000 Bitcoin price action is going to become true? as we all know, if you're watching right now, it's inevitable and only a matter of time as the Bitcoin price will continue to soar, as they continue to print fiat, and as the bank runs continue, and fiat currency ultimately being doomed. But I'd love to know your timeline. Let me know, and I'm going to be reading all of your comments out loud, giving each and every one of you an opportunity to get your comments read. So yeah, now let's dive right into the comments. I appreciate each and every one of you for tuning in and supporting the show, as always. Matthew, it's a pleasure, fam. Dub Proof was good. Bitcoin Maximus in the building. I'm going to scroll to the top. Here we go. Dan Drummond, welcome. He says, I always said for a true bottom industry-wide, two things need to happen. Binance was one, Ether is the other. Shoot a drop. Matthew says, good morning. And to the whole Crypto News Alerts fam, appreciate that. And responding to Dan, he says, I think they messed up. Do you see what happened in the Voyager bankruptcy case? And Matthew reminds everyone to smash the like on the way in. He says, I am free and easy to do. Subscribe if you haven't. Also free and easy. I appreciate the reminder and greatly appreciate all the support. Dan says, Binance buying Voyager crap is about as eventful as FTX buying BlockFi's crap. Makes about as much sense too, and we'll have a similar result. So by the way, now is a good time to remind peeps to get your coins off the exchanges. So yeah, great reminder, not your keys, not your cheese. Never keep your crypto on the exchange. Only keep on the exchange what you're willing to lose. I'd give the same advice as keeping US dollars in the bank or any fiat in your local bank if you're on a different part of the world. Only keep there what you're willing to lose. The best, safest thing to do is to put your crypto in self-custody. So you're not dependent upon any bank. You're not dependent upon any regulator. You're not dependent upon any government. You're not dependent upon any third party. You're not dependent upon any corruption, and you could be protected. So sage advice from Dan. Much love. Squid Hammer Metal says, good morning, friends. Sounds like the CFTC is having a hard time grasping decentralized businesses, attacking Binance because they're too hard to keep track of and monitor. The CFTC ain't seen nothing yet. It does seem this way, and remember when the collapse of FTX took place, you had Bankman-Fried, Kevin O'Leary, and many people pointing the fingers at CZ. CZ, Binance is to blame. Binance is the blame. Instead of them taking the blame for their own corruption and collusion, which we all know is going on with the regulators, with the SEC and Gary Gensler, etc. Hey, fam, one love. Good morning to Selling with Twins. Always a pleasure, fam. That's not the key takeaway, Dan. The judge asked the SEC to prove Voyager was a security. They couldn't. The judge is allowing Binance to carry on. I believe in opinion, CFTC will be the crypto regulator now. Yeah, I mean, you have different regulators fighting for territory right now. You have the CFTC and the SEC. They both want to be in charge of regulating cryptocurrency. Dan says if that altcoin casino is a commodity, then so is Nike and Pepsi. Word up. Coinfather says, good morning. Good morning, Coinfather. Good to see you. Hey, CFTC, go flail about people using VPNs and watch more people start using VPNs. Way to point out the weak spots, says Squid Hammer. Maximus, good to see you as well, buddy. All of the UBS is backtracking on Credit Suisse, says Megadon. Good Monday morning, JB and the fam. Welcome, SpongeBob. Good to see you, fam. Matthew says, I have a question and concern. Normies now let bank custody their fiat in a fractional reserve capacity. Soon banks will custody Bitcoin. Normies will succumb to this via Stockholm Syndrome. Probably more than likely. That's why it's so important, as Dan is preaching, self-custody your crypto and don't leave it in the hands of anyone, because obviously mofos can be corrupted very easily, like we witness. You know what I mean? Power corrupts, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. Is this a potential attack vector for the banks and big government when they custody most of Bitcoin, says Matthew? Could potentially be. I mean, that's why we can't stress enough to self-custody your own crypto. Don't put it in the hands of a third party. Satoshi would be, you know what I mean, flipping out at people. It's like we created Bitcoin due to the fact we can't trust banks. You know what I mean? It was invented after 2008 financial collapse of all the major banks. And then so we wouldn't have to depend upon them. So what is the purpose of buying Bitcoin, the most pristine asset ever created in history and pristine form of collateral, and then giving that precious asset back to the banks because you trust them so much? To me, that doesn't make sense. But let me know your thoughts, guys. Matthew J is educating people. It's the only way to win this fight, which should be an easy one, just like JV was saying yesterday. Appreciate the support, Squid. Smashed. I appreciate that. Bitcoin Maximus. Dankness says, give that like button a love tap. The best compliment, and it's free. Check out his Twitter and Telegram links in the description. And if you're here, subscribe and hit the bell icon. Couldn't have said it any better myself, Dankness, so I appreciate that, family. Much love. Yep, the dollar cost average every Monday. Word up, Maximus. Well, in my case, the euro cost average, well, there you have it if you're using the euro. Except me, I buy every top, bought at 28,000 a few days ago, says Matthew. Keep doing your thing. I think the bigger picture is stacking stats. And let's stop being so focused on the US dollar value of Bitcoin and start comparing the fact that one Bitcoin is still one Bitcoin or comparing it to gold. You know what I mean? Because obviously gold is a more stable store value asset proven over thousands of years, where fiat currencies, they have a lifespan of roughly, 100 years? And we passed that time for the US dollar, so it's about to go bye-bye. And even on mainstream television this morning, I saw clips on crypto Twitter. They ultimately said, new to the BRICS thing with all the major countries, including Russia, China, South Africa, and they're even saying Saudi Arabia, if they decide to move away from using the dollar as all these other countries are, and they're publicly announcing it, the dollar is doomed. So, and we even had the, the president or governor of Kenya the other day, I quoted him on the show as well. He ultimately said, take your funds out of dollars, get rid of your dollars, because in the next few weeks it's not going to be the same. So obviously the elites and the people at the higher ups, they know something major is happening. And that's why I can't stress enough, only keep in the bank what you can afford to lose. Back over 27,000, looks like an energetic green candle. Love to hear that, Squid. It seems like Bitcoin recovering fast from the CFTC announcement of going after CZ. When it hits 100,000, you're 28,000. Will be godsend 100%, because you're talking about a 4x ultimately, right? 4x the price action. I've been too busy with more important things. Did I miss an opportunity to get more Satoshis for less dinero? Yes, indeed. That is true. Bring facts. Bitcoin instantly dropped by about $1,600 off of the news of the CFTC going after the Binance CEO, CZ, just FYI. They hate that us retailers are in early. Facts. I believe that as well. SpongeBob. Squid says, I wonder what the CFTC suits did with their Bitcoin just before and after their announcement this morning. Great question. I think we need to audit them all. Matthew says, he's my hero. I got in before him. He is on another level. Word up. Bring facts as fear, uncertainty, and doubt. No. Fueling up discounts. Word up. Stanley says, got my Safe Pal cold storage wallet today. Got here very quickly from the USA. Love to hear that. Way to protect your sats, fam. You know what I mean? Yeah, it's at a home and I'm at the sea, says Sailing. Maximus says, yep, robbed as we say here in the UK. SpongeBob says, is the US using a Trezor or Ledger? Excellent question. I'd love to know as well. Are they using self-custody or are they using a major bank? I'd love to know the answer to that question. Corky C, good morning, fam. Smashing like and stacking stats. Love to hear that. Music to my ears. Dan says Ledger doesn't have the greatest history with security. So maybe the Trezor is superior after all. If they want to fix this problem, stop suppressing Bitcoin and reap the profit, says Sponge. Slowly then suddenly, says Facts. Trezor is better, but Cold Card is even better, says Coin Father. Word up, that's the one that looks like a little calculator. Cold Card is very intermediate, definitely not your first cold wallet, but yes, the best. And I agree there. It's actually more of an advanced wallet. So for a brand newbie, I probably wouldn't recommend that one. But if you have quite some experience with using wallets, I can suggest checking it out and maybe using it as well. Bitcoin lets nature take its course, says Sponge. They ain't getting my Bitcoin, says Matthew. I'm talking in sats. Word up. I buy every top and every bottom. Dollar cost average is the way. CF. I've been trying to teach friends that way. It looks like 3,500 sats per dollar, not 28,000 per Bitcoin. That's 1 million Bitcoin, sounding more likely. It does seem this way. I mean, Balaji, the former Coinbase CTO, Chief Technology Officer, he's still predicting Bitcoin hitting $1 million per coin by June 17th. So if that played out, I think it would obviously blow everyone's mind, but that would mean the destruction and death of the dollar. For that to happen, we would need to witness hyperinflation, and that means chaos, extreme chaos across the world. So I don't pray upon that, but if it happened, hey, are you prepared? That's the real question. Have you stacked enough sats? You know what I mean? Let me know. The collapse of the dollar has got to be the only way 1 million Bitcoin happens in 3 months. Exactly, Dankness. We're on the same page. Coinfather Matthew, yeah, and my friends open up slowly. I get at least one person on my base get orange pilled every 2 to 3 months. Family and friends have to take the orange pill willfully. Word up. Well, keep doing your thing. I trust the dollar. We printed into oblivion. Well said. Yeah, I don't think anyone is really trusting the dollar right now. Matthew says, I spent 3 years and only orange pill 3 people out of 20 or so. My friends, dense. I think many people can relate. Tony Hilton, the BRICS situation sucks. That would be huge if crypto becomes a world reserve currency. I just swapped some fiat for some Stellar and Algorand. I am sure there'll be blue chips soon. Well, wishing you much success with that. And it does seem the BRICS situation absolutely does suck. But it is what it is. It seems they're all moving away from the US dollar. I don't expect the US dollar to continue to be the world reserve currency for much longer. But the $1 million question is, for how much longer, right? Let's see. I've orange pilled a few people in the last year, says Selling with Twins. Trini says, and good morning, Trini, it's hard to orange pill the sheep. Preach. And here's my thing. Obviously, you can lead a horse or a donkey to the water, but you can't force any animal to drink the water. That's on them. I think people find Bitcoin at the right time, and we're all different. We all have individual different needs and so on. You know what I mean? Once Satoshi equals $1, I am ready. Send it. Yeah, and let's not forget, we're going to have the $100,000 Bitcoin party here in Puerto Rico, and we'll throw something 10 times more spectacular when Bitcoin actually hits $1 million, and you're all invited. As long as you're not a perma bear, you're welcome. Just no perma bears allowed. I don't want anyone raining on our parade. One day it will be Sponge. Word up. I agree 100%, and I cannot wait for that day. And with that being said, now let's recap with the big finish. In today's show, I shared with you the latest technical analysis, as well as top analyst Rec Capital says Bitcoin is in the calm before the storm, predicting a big breakout through its long-term resistance. Also, Max Kaiser calling for a $45,000 Bitcoin price, sending it to the moon. Let's go. And US CFTC sues Binance CEO, and Bitcoin plunged by $1,400 immediately and is already recovering. Also, we discussed Michael Saylor of MicroStrategy repaying the Silvergate loan and buying an additional 6.5 thousand BTC. And we also shared the fact that the US government remains the top Bitcoin holder with their seed stash currently valued at $5.6 billion. Also shared breaking news that First Citizens Bank snapped up Silicon Valley Bank and the branches are officially open today. We also discussed Analyst predicts that the gold prices might exceed $8,000 per ounce in the next decade as central banks lose confidence in foreign currency. And we also discussed the latest from billionaire venture capitalist Tim Draper saying Bitcoin is a hedge against potential Domino bank run crisis, and also reiterated his $250,000 Bitcoin price prediction, which he says he is nearly 100% sure that Bitcoin will explode to $250,000 per coin within the next 18 months. But where do you feel the Bitcoin price is likely to go next?